darkest moments in TV history. I don't know if you guys know, but television is kind of, it's an old thing, so a lot of you guys might not have heard of it or know what it is, but basically there's these boxes and they would play like channels. There's different channels like with different stuff playing with commercials and stuff, but you weren't able to choose what you were able to watch, you know? It would be whatever's on at that moment. That's kind of what TV was. Kind of an old people thing.
Under the water there are traps, old cars, bedsteads.
Flash warning, flashing images.
It's the perfect place for an accident.
On the 29th of June, 2025, a group of teenagers ventured into the Miriam River in Botany, Brazil, for a quick morning swim.
That's
but
terrifying.
After several minutes in the water, the group started to realize that one of its members, 13-year-old Raisa, was no longer beside them. And after calling out her name and searching the surrounding area, the realization set in. Raisa had disappeared. It was now.
Oh my god, dude, this looks exactly like. There was like a creek. There was a park that was like down the street from my house, and it's probably like a 10-minute walk. And like me and my friends, we'd go to the creek, and then we ended up going into the water, and the creek would get deeper and deeper, and the stream would get stronger and stronger, and it would pull you into like what looks exactly like this, and you would just be gone. Like you couldn't swim against it. And oh my god, I remember trying so hard to fight. We would like try to get out as far as possible, and like it was like a game, dude. It was like a fucking game. And like we would like I didn't know how to swim, like legit. I would doggy paddle, so I'd be like this, and I would get back. But like I remember there just being so much tension and being like not able to do it, like fucking scary.
Somewhere in that murky water around them. The news sent shockwaves throughout the community, and straight away locals filled the area to help find this girl. But their attempts
I don't know why we were doing that, dude. Being a kid, you're just an idiot.
It grew more and more likely that Raisa had tragically drowned, with the search efforts shifting to recovery efforts the next morning. The tragedy led to various news stations arriving on the scene to help document the search, and for one reporter, Lenildo Frazao, he couldn't help but view Raisa's story as a cautionary tale. The Miriam River is particularly unassuming from the surface, which is exactly what made it so dangerous, since it carried with it an unexpectedly strong current and a bottom that was littered with sudden drop-offs, as even in shallow sections, one step could plunge you into deep water without warning.
You've seen this on TikTok?
As a result, tragedies like this had sadly happened here before, and for Lenildo, this was the perfect time to highlight the river's dangers, in the hope of preventing one from ever happening again. And he had a unique idea to help achieve this. Rather than just explaining how dangerous the river was, Lenildo wanted to demonstrate it.
No.
And so he began to take off his shoes and his pants
before
entering the water, with his microphone in his hand.
If this guy dies, I swear to God.
Olha, a gente já vê que aqui a água é muito forte, ó. E vai descendo, ó. Vixe Maria, vai descendo aqui, viu? Ó.
The camera rolled as he waded into the river, at first going just to the depths of his knees, before the riverbed began to drop beneath him, sending the water all the way up to his chest.
Então, pessoal, e aí ainda tem a correnteza. Aqui já, olha.
We know how it works.
And all while this happened, he spoke to the viewers at home about how unsafe this area could be, especially for unattended children who weren't strong swimmers. But even with most of his body now submerged, he wanted to take it even further in order to prove his point. And so he continued wading towards the center of the river.
Okay, I mean, dude, at this point, like, I respect him, how much he wants to show how dangerous it is. He's like, guys, look, it literally kills people. This is how it kills people. And then he just kills himself. There's no way.
Noticeably fast-moving current, until suddenly.
Olha, andei pouquinho aqui, ó. A água já tá acima do meu peito, para você ver a situação. Se eu andar
We see the situation, bro. Get out. Come on.
Vou andar mais.
He's stressing me out.
Ó a fundura aqui, ó. Ui.
Okay. My other option was like, maybe he's not going to kill himself. He's going to step on the body. That was what I was also thinking. But as he kept getting deeper, I was like, okay, he's definitely killing himself. I don't know. We'll see.
Lenildo physically recoiled and let out a loud yell. He stood there for a moment, anxiously glaring into the water, before telling his crew, I think there's something down here underwater. No. Whatever he had touched in those murky depths didn't seem natural, with Lenildo describing it as being soft. And quickly, he made his way back to the shore, where he further explained why he was so shaken by the ordeal, admitting that what he stepped on felt like an arm.
Oh my god.
This is the exact moment that many believe Raisa was
I think personally, I'd rather have drowned.
Later, several locals would retrace Lenildu's steps.
Then stepping
and
on the body,
discover
stepping on the body, I would be
13-year-old's body
freaked
in the
out
same
forever.
exact location. Raisa had died from an accidental drowning, as she wasn't a strong swimmer, and had likely fallen into the deep water where she was held down by the current. The exact conditions that Lenildu had been warning the viewers about, when he unknowingly stepped on her corpse.
What are the odds in
with
all
the
that
entire ordeal
space?
culminating into what can only be described as one of the darkest moments in television
Out
history.
of all the space in the water that they could have chose to film, that's crazy. Number 7, Burger King foot lettuce.
Individually, they're just like you and me. But together, they are a source of endless fascination.
And we'll conduct a rigorous scientific experiment into twin telepathy.
Take care out on the street. Use your head and then your feet.
It was a peculiar sight. As traffic flowed through one of the UK's busiest roadways, the M6, CCTV cameras captured 2 women walking down the narrow median, with a vehicle speeding past them on either side. These women were Sabina and Ursula Eriksson, 40-year-old identical twin sisters who grew up in Sweden, with Ursula eventually moving to the US and Sabina to Ireland. Just one day before this footage was taken, on May 16, 2008, Ursula had made the long flight to visit Sabina at her home in Dublin. But things got off to a troubling start when Sabina got into a verbal altercation with her husband and the father of her 2 kids, prompting both sisters to leave the house in the middle of the night without telling anyone.
Dang, it's not October
next
anymore. We
morning,
don't need to be watching this shit. I know, but these are timeless, scary videos, you know? These aren't ghosts and stuff. This is real shit. It's scary.
Sisters emerged in the city of Liverpool, where they visited a police station and reported that Sabina's kids were in
We'll
danger
watch something
and
happy
were
after this,
unsafe
I
in her
promise.
husband's care. Law enforcement briefly looked into the matter, but ultimately they didn't seem all too concerned with the children's well-being, and rather they seemed more troubled by the women themselves. Their behavior was just somewhat off, so much so that shortly after leaving the station, they were kicked off a public bus for exhibiting erratic behavior, which some passengers found threatening. And after the altercation, this erratic behavior continued, as for unknown reasons the pair began walking towards the M6, and then eventually right onto it, where we see them now. It defied any sort of logic, and put them in an extremely dangerous position, a position where one wrong move could lead to a horrific accident. And sure enough, that's exactly what would happen, though it was anything but accidental. Without warning, both women turned and then
You
ran
farted?
directly
Yeah, I can
into
smell
the
it.
road, and for Sabina, directly into a car traveling in the fast lane. Immediately, local
what?
police were inundated with urgent calls about the ordeal, leading to a directly into both women turned and then ran directly into the road. And sure
Why
enough,
did they turn and
that's
run
exactly
on the road?
what would happen, though it was anything but accidental.
Oh, they did it on purpose.
Without warning, both women turned and then ran directly
Yo,
into the
thank
road.
you for the
Baddie
tier
for
1.
Sabina,
L33
directly into a
just
car
subscribed.
traveling in the fast
Yo,
lane.
thank you, Baddie. I appreciate it.
Immediately, local police were inundated with urgent calls about the ordeal, leading to a
I
group
owe
of
you my
officers
life.
being dispatched to the scene. And coincidentally, the same group just so happened to have a camera crew following them as part of the show Motorway Cops.
Oh, shit.
The show follows traffic officers as they handle their many daily encounters, ranging from mundane traffic infractions all the way to devastating tragedies. And this segment seemed destined for the latter.
Lane 3 is obviously the fastest lane in the motorway. Anyone being
Oh,
hit,
both of them?
you're
Twin
expecting
sisters? That's
serious
scary.
injury, if not life-threatening.
Despite the officers fearing the worst, however, when they arrived on the scene, they were met with a surprising sight. Standing there before them was Ursula and Sabina, who despite being struck by a car at high speeds, appeared completely unharmed.
What
In
the
fact,
hell?
both sisters were entirely calm, as they were shown casually speaking amongst themselves as if nothing ever happened.
What?
It was a miracle. And as the officers began trying to piece together the cause of
the
this whole
hell?
ordeal,
Guys, what the hell?
everyone at the scene began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. There was no way that any of them could have known that their roles had just been cast in one of the most disturbing television scenes of all time.
Right, what we've got is they were in the central res. They were trying to cross the Bravo, so as we approached, they hadn't seen us, Mother. The red ones got knocked down by the red car over there. I've got an ambulance
I'm
en route.
confused.
She seems all right, but I'm not a doctor. She has been knocked down.
Is
by
she
a-
the one that speaks English?
Oh, no.
Yes.
Oh, no.
She's done...
Without a single word being spoken, Ursula dashed into the middle of oncoming
Oh,
traffic
hell no.
and directly into the path of a massive truck traveling at over 60 miles per hour. It happened in a literal instant. There was hardly any chance to react, and before anyone could even begin to process what they had just witnessed, Sabina would also run into the road, not after her sister, but rather straight into the path of an oncoming Volkswagen.
How did they survive the first one, though?
Oh no! Mike Alpha, we need ambulance. Senior officers to the scene. We've got 2 possible fatals.
Jesus Christ.
Within just seconds, this completely calm scene had turned to utter chaos, and both women were now lying on the pavement. Miraculously, they both were still alive.
What?
Sabina was stable but knocked unconscious, while Ursula was in rough shape. Her legs had been pulverized by the truck, with paramedics describing them as looking as if they had exploded. And while she lay there on the pavement, she was wide awake and experiencing everything.
Oh, fuck that.
Within seconds of receiving medical attention, Ursula began to cry out. But strangely, it wasn't in pain. Rather, she was yelling at the paramedics, cursing, and even attacking them for trying to help her.
Bro, these are not humans.
Calm down. Calm down. Mine's very aggressive.
These are not humans.
Shouting things like, "I recognize you. I know you're not real."
Come on, you've hit your head. Calm down. We are the police. We are the police.
It was clear that she was suffering
Terrifying.
from some sort of delusion, but while officers had their hands full trying to subdue her, things were about to get even more hectic as Sabina started to regain consciousness.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
She had been brutally struck by a car,
What the
as
fuck?
evidenced by the damage to the vehicle itself.
Did they
But
film
like
all
Ursula,
this?
she also appeared almost entirely unfazed as she stood up and began to scream to her
Again?
sister, "They're going to steal your organs." One of the officers tried to hold her back,
How
but
is she
Sabina resisted.
walking?
Still.
Oscar Tango 33.
How is she fuck? Oh
Eventually
my
shoving the
god.
woman to the ground, before once again taking off into oncoming traffic.
No! Stay! Stay there.
How
Calm
is
down,
she
calm
running
down, calm
around?
down.
I'm
Thankfully,
fucking,
this time
I'm
the cars
confused.
managed to avoid her, but it would take 6 officers to finally restrain her, and even with that many people, it was still a struggle, as her strength was unlike anything that they had seen in a woman her size. And
Dude.
with Sabina now subdued, the chaos was finally over. In the following moments, Ursula was airlifted to a local hospital.
They
where she
got,
underwent
there's a
an
reason they fucking survived. These people, like, need to be alive for some fucking reason. What is going on? 260-mile a fucking truck? Dude.
extensive, yet successful emergency surgery, while Sabina was shockingly found to have no injuries.
No
which allowed her to be
injuries?
discharged
Oh my
into police
God.
custody after just 5 hours, where she was promptly arrested and sentenced to 1 day in prison for assaulting an officer,
One
as well as
day.
trespassing on the motorway. And with both women now safe,
She's just gonna go kill herself, dude. You gotta get her in a fucking padded room.
one question burned at the forefront of everyone's minds. Why had the Erickson twins done this? Well, the immediate theory was that this was all the result of drug use. But surprisingly, when given toxicology tests, no drugs or alcohol would be found in either of their systems. They were entirely sober during this ordeal, which left only one plausible theory, that this was all the result of some sort of mental breakdown, with both women somehow experiencing its effects at the same time. Today, this case is used as one of the most glaring examples of a psychological disorder known as folie à deux,
Gotta be
in which one
fake. I
person
mean,
suffering from
if it
delusions
happened on the fucking
transmits
highway
said
like this,
delusions
I'd-
onto a different person, leading to both people experiencing the same misconstrued version of reality. And while this is only a theory, it's clear that regardless of the how or why, these women were extremely mentally unwell during this event. In fact, during the TV program, an officer even mentioned that this could be a 136.
Yeah, she's under arrest at the moment. Well, 136 if she is.
Which is a code that allows law enforcement to hold people on account of their mental health to assure that they're safe to return to the public.
They are
But
not
shockingly,
safe.
Not only
These
did
are
this never
indestructible
happen,
humans.
but Sabina was released without ever being given a mental health assessment. In fact, she was never so much as looked over by a mental health professional, and was
What?
instead released the very next day after the incident.
Oh my
On
god.
top of this, when she was released, she was given no information about Ursula's whereabouts or her condition, or even resources to help find her way home, leaving Sabina still mentally unwell and now stranded in an unfamiliar city, not knowing what happened to her sister. And sadly, her delusions were far from over.
There's more? I'm just actually still mind blown that they survived these
on the 19th of
fucking
May.
cars.
Sabina had nowhere to go, and so she began to wander, carrying her belongings in the same evidence bag that the police had given her earlier that day. Eventually, she would happen across two men walking their dogs, and as she stopped to pet them, Sabina asked the owners where the nearest hotel was. But seemingly recognizing that the woman wasn't well, one of the men, Glenn Hollenshed, offered to have her stay at his place.
Oh my god.
To which Sabina happily obliged. But once inside Hollenshed's home, Sabina began acting extremely paranoid, checking the windows constantly and believing that her cigarettes had been poisoned. Despite this, though, Hollenshed was patient, and he helped her make calls around the area to track down Ursula, while making sure that Sabina
would you
wasn't
ever
eating or
invite
drinking.
someone to your place?
The following day,
you don't know?
Hollenshed was preparing dinner for Sabina when he stepped out of the house to ask his neighbor for tea. But just minutes after returning home with the bags, he would once again step out of the house. Only this time, he was completely covered in blood, as he stumbled and screamed, "She stabbed me."
Oh my god.
As he collapsed to the ground, the neighbor rushed over to
I mean,
try
why
and
would you
help,
let a
but the
stranger?
damage
This
was
whole
already
story is
done.
fucking bizarre. This is insane. Why would you? Okay, first of all, I don't know how they survived the car crash. Second, two of them, both of them. So that's 4 hits. Second of all, why would you just go up to someone and be like, "Oh, you could stay at my place," like that you don't know? Just tell them a hotel.
Hollenshed would let out one final soft whisper, saying, "Look after my dog for me," before breathing his final breath. For unknown reasons, in that house, Sabina had stabbed Glenn Hollenshed, and by the time law enforcement arrived, she was long gone, having fled the house.
I thought he was
going
gonna
to
kill her.
Which she used to strike her head repeatedly as she mumbled incoherently and walked down the sidewalk. Eventually, a man passing by tried to intervene, but Sabina immediately attacked, brandishing a roof tile that she had hidden in her pocket and using it to strike him on the head, nearly knocking him unconscious. It would take several minutes for police to finally catch up with her, but just like the day prior, she took off, leading to a chase that ended
These
with
people need a
Sabina being
movie after
surrounded
them.
on a 40-foot tall bridge that passed over a highway, and recognizing that there was nowhere
like a
left
horror
for her
movie.
to go, she jumped. Somehow, Sabina would cheat death once again.
No.
Despite suffering 2 broken ankles and a skull fracture, she was alive. And after a lengthy recovery, she was put on trial for the murder of Glenn Hollenshed, where she would never give a single comment as to why she did what she did, leaving her motive a total mystery to this day. Though it seems clear that it was at least...
We gotta study her. Like, what the fuck is she made out of? What is going on? Like, she's a superhuman. Like, we could use her as a goddamn superhero. If she wasn't terrible and, like, killing people.
At least partially a result of her delusions, with the defense pointing to Folie à Deux as a potential explanation. And in the end, it was deemed that Sabina was not mentally fit to make decisions at the time of the slaying. And ultimately, she was given a prison sentence of just 5 years.
She's fucking Deadpool.
This is truly one of the most disturbing
5
TV
years
cases.
for murder? She's tried to kill herself 3 times. I am wondering what happened to the sister. I don't know what happened to the sister.
And for as shocking as it is on its own, what I find most chilling is the fact that these officers mentioned holding her for a psychiatric evaluation, which ultimately never happened.
Is she under arrest at the moment? Well, 136 if she is.
It was a massive oversight. In fact, it was so glaring that the police department allegedly contacted the show and asked them to remove this entire section. As if they had just followed through with that code 136, Sabina would have been held for longer than just one night, which meant that she not only may have been given the help she needed, but she also never would have had the chance to meet Glenn Hollenshed that fateful day.
Why did it
Since
seems like all these like police and stuff never
Sabina
take shit
promptly
serious.
disappeared from the public eye, and neither she nor Ursula has ever been heard from again, meaning we have no idea whatever happened to the Erickson twins.
These motherfuckers are out and about? Right now? They're out and about on the streets? Oh my god. Lock your doors, guys.
They just simply tend to be making
That's
the same decisions
terrifying.
at the same times. They're thinking in the same way.
What is this?
It's December 2021. A couple receives a warm welcome as they walk onto the stage, ready to compete in the Croatian television show Super Talent, the country's version of America's Got Talent. But it's clear this excitement from the crowd wasn't shared by the show's host, who turned to someone standing behind the camera and flashed the unmistakable look of concern. In the minutes prior, the audience at home was introduced to the pair, 34-year-old singer Roman Bernata and his wife, 44-year-old violinist Bianca Kolompar, along
Holy
with their
boobs.
child.
I mean, I wasn't going to say it, but they're there.
Shared their musical talents.
He's looking at them.
In their day-to-day lives, Roman was a professional goalkeeper for a local soccer team, while Bianca was a professional violinist with a doctorate in music. And while on paper this all seems fairly normal, it was immediately clear to those watching that this couple
Guys,
was
big boobs exist, okay? They're out there, and they're freaking awesome, but
long-winded and bizarre
we gotta lock in. This is a serious story.
Her breast enlargement surgery.
Ja sam imala kao cura velike grudi, velika mi je bila želja da to vratim, operirala sam.
She had breast surgery, there we go.
At length
it's been addressed.
In a living God who walked the earth.
Ali ja osjetim, stvarno imam taj kontakt sa živim Bogom.
I really have contact with that. Anyone that thinks they, like, anyone talking about being involved with gods or, like, thinking they're God or, like, live, like, just fucking that type of shit is scary.
Energija, istovremeno, da.
But it was their performance itself.
There's so many true crime, like, murder stories that end up with, like, that type of behavior.
Dobro večer.
Vi se mene ne sjećate, jel da?
Ja?
Ne. Prije puno godina.
Aha, ja se nas sjećam kad sam snimala
škola, jel ide Harbe, ide? Je, ja se ispričavam, ali stvarno moram vas to pitati.
Roman's introduction was fairly uncomfortable, as he made mention of a time that he had met one of the judges years before, who clearly had no recollection of the encounter, which seemed to frustrate him, as his demeanor quickly became hostile.
Ko je vaš talent? S čim ste se došli
Ja nemam nikakav talent.
Pa šta ste onda došli?
Radit.
Ali potpuno nebitno. Emisija se zove Super talent.
Ja vas
kolegica...
volim, nemojte mi zamijeniti.
Alo, polako. Mislim da ipak ćemo mi ovdje voditi riječ.
Može, pa.
Leading to Roman receiving his first X before he even sang a single note.
Ako je kolegica pitala koji je vaš talent, a naša emisija se zove Super talent, a vi tvrdite da nemate talent, onda vas ja pitam pošto ste došli.
Radit. Okej, hvala, može.
Oh, is she gonna play the violin though?
And by the time they did get to perform, things only got worse.
And now, the end is near, and so I face the final curtain.
Šta da radim? Ludilo.
Admittedly, the couple didn't sound awful, but it was clear the judges were frustrated by Roman's demeanor.
Yeah, something's gonna happen. That song, the end is near. I don't like the vibe.
End of the couple's performance, or at least
who watches shows like this. I mean, just like old people, like parents. I feel like this is a good parent show, like America's Got Talent and shit. Okay, he kind of hit that though.
As the two just kept on performing, playing over the sounds of the judges shouting their name and the deafening silence from the crowd.
Oh, that's awkward.
With the two going until a producer finally had to step in from behind the camera and officially cut them off. But even then, the couple continued their antics, this time by protesting the judge's decision, with Bianca even threatening to go to the newspaper and expose their behavior.
Go to the newspaper?
All while Roman stood angrily to the side, glaring at the panel before him.
I go to the news.
And with that, Roman and Bianca's time on Super Talent was over, and they not only walked away without receiving the grand prize, but they also left with shattered reputations, as this segment became notorious among fans of Super Talent.
They came in with the worst vibes imaginable.
Acts to ever feature on the show.
He thought the boobs were going to carry.
This performance isn't what Roman is most widely remembered for today. On February 6th, 2022, residents in Rijeka, Croatia were met with the sight of a fully nude man wandering the city streets. It was Roman Bernata, and while most stared on in amusement, laughing to themselves and snapping photos, what they were witnessing was actually one of the most disturbing events the city had ever seen.
Dude, that's me when I have a bad dream.
Disastrous performance just
and I forget that I'm like, I leave the house naked.
To pursue a career in singing, taking every opportunity he could to share his music with the world, often joining Bianca on her YouTube channel, and singing on the streets for tips, where he actually made a decent amount of money. Though because of his notorious television moment, he would often be harassed and even have the money he earned stolen from him.
Damn.
One day, while performing outside of a local soup kitchen, he was introduced to a woman named Darnika Krevich, a 67-year-old who relied on the soup kitchen for consistent meals. And after hearing Roman sing, she became a legitimate fan of his music, leading to the two striking up a friendship. And despite Darnika not having much, she offered to take Roman to a local coffee shop on February 6th, 2022, where she treated him to a warm cup of tea on a cold winter day.
Oh my god, is she 67
so
years
the two
old?
sat
God
inside
damn
a
it.
restaurant called the Cafe Pin, with everything seeming completely
That's
normal.
how I know. Brain rot
until a
hasn't fully gotten to me because I didn't even catch it until I looked at the chat. So my brain is still salvageable. You guys are fucked.
Server noticed that
It's
Roman
over for
started
you
to
guys.
look almost sickly.
She was a
like he
sugar
could
mommy?
barely
Okay,
keep
well, I
himself
don't think she was because she was eating at a soup kitchen, but
upright, as his body was starting to slump over the table, his eyes
he
barely
did get a
open.
coffee out of it.
The server rushed over to help, but Roman recoiled and shouted, "Just try calling the police on me." And so, not wanting to escalate things, the server left, only returning later to drop off their check, which is when Roman's behavior took an even more drastic turn. He began feeling around his pants pocket for his wallet, before looking desperately around the table, but there was no sign of it. And so he grabbed Darnika's bag and rifled through it, before yelling, "You snake, you whore, where's my wallet?"
You pickpocket him?
But when he still couldn't find it in Darnika's bag, his anger turned to violence, as he stood up and rushed Darnika, grabbing her by the head and shaking her, screaming in her face, accusing her of being a thief. This time, multiple people inside the cafe rushed over to hold him back, but Roman was too strong, too angry, and with
He is
seemingly no
fucking a
effort
big
at all,
dude, dude.
he pushed everyone away.
He's a big
completely
dude.
unfazed by their attempts. In that moment, no one could have stopped Roman. Darnika was entirely helpless, and so the crowd inside the cafe watched as Roman grabbed her by the neck and dragged her behind the bar, and then proceeded to kick, then stomp, and then jump directly on her, over and over again, each time landing on her head.
Oh my god.
It was a rage so demented that he actually began to smile, a wide manic grin, as he jumped and chanted, "Whore, witch, die." After what felt like an eternity, Roman stopped, before sprinting out of the restaurant, leaving Darnika entirely unrecognizable and dead on the floor.
These people, it's so scary because it's
away,
like, were they ever at a point like normal, you think? Or were they just always like kind of fucked mentally? Like, can you just like snap one day and turn into fucking crazy? That's scary.
Roman's wallet lay, having innocently fallen out of his pocket.
Like, can I
shortly
wake up
before.
tomorrow and just be fucking crazy?
Outside, Roman removed his blood-soaked clothes and walked completely naked into the city center, much to the amusement of the passerbys who had no idea what he had just done. Until eventually he made his way into a nearby
Please don't.
police
I mean, I'm
station
gonna try my
and
best.
blankly
I'm not
stated,
trying to wake up crazy tomorrow,
"I
but
am not well."
that's fucking scary.
This sentiment was true in so many regards. Roman hadn't been well for quite a long time. Since a young age, it's believed he had dealt with undiagnosed schizophrenia
Okay,
that
but
had led to
he's had it
uncontrollable
forever.
anger issues, before developing an alcohol and substance abuse problem that only exacerbated his symptoms. And by the time he was an adult, Roman became so delusional that he believed he was a disciple sent from God to touch the world with his music, something that he eventually convinced Bianca of as well. So in their Super Talent episode, when Bianca mentioned their love for a living God that walked the earth, she was likely referencing Roman.
Ali ja osjetim, stvarno imam taj kontakt sa živim Bogom I mislim da je
She
Bog
thinks he's a
svugdje oko
god?
nas, da je Bog osoba, energija, znači
Istovremeno.
sve. Istovremeno, da.
Roman was severely unwell, and no one in his life was keeping him in check. In fact, those closest with him were only feeding his delusions, with all of his issues coming to a head on the day of the incident. And when he realized his wallet was gone, Roman rushed to assume that Darnika was the one who robbed him, perhaps as a result of having his money stolen frequently on the streets. But the sad reality was, in a sea of people trying to exploit and mock Roman, Darnika
was nice.
was one of the few who actually truly cared about him
That's
and
fucked.
legitimately believed in his talents. And yet, he killed her in one of the most evil ways imaginable.
Jesus Christ.
All over a simple misunderstanding that was entirely his fault. In the end, Roman Bernardo was deemed unfit to stand trial and was never sentenced to serve any jail time, instead being given a 40-year
Is that
sentence
him?
in a mental health facility, where he's since been described as a model patient, with his good behavior awarding him the opportunity to leave the facility for days at a time
No.
for therapeutic purposes.
Bro, if you just like fucking stomp someone out, like I don't care how normal you act after that, like you already did the bad thing, it's over.
There's nothing out there, it's your imagination.
That's scary.
It was the start of yet another adventure for the crew of the television show Gardener's World. This British program has been on the air
My grandma had
since the
schizophrenia and bought me a wedding dress at 11. Not all schizophrenia are that aggressive. Oh yeah, no, there's probably certain levels to it for sure. But I had a wedding dress? Like a nice ass wedding dress at 11?
1960s, and provides viewers with tips on how to maintain their garden while showing off a variety of unique plant life, which often brought them to remote areas of the globe. This particular episode was filmed on February 5th, 2020.
Knowing damn well you're at ain't getting married. No, I'm just kidding.
With the host, Nick Bailey,
I'm sure you'll find a wonderful husband.
Down one specific flower.
One species which grows wild all over the country and has been a real favourite with British gardeners for generations is the gladiolus.
This delicate flower would have been familiar with many of the show's viewers, as it was quite popular in the UK. But in this region, there existed a unique species that had only been seen a handful of times in the last century, since it only grew in one particular valley in this one particular mountain range. Its scientific name is the Gladiolus microcarpus.
The Gladiolus microcarpus.
Better than anyone else. Rod and Rachel Saunders were well-renowned botanists who studied the world of South African flowers in depth, with their favorite being the gladioli, as they would spend days and even months on end roaming areas just like this to learn everything they could about them, making them the perfect duo to help with the show.
You're actually engaged? Oh shit! Congratulations!
I think they're beauty.
You don't even have to ask. I'll perform at the wedding.
So exquisitely beautiful. You actually just
don't worry.
To sit down and cry when you see them.
But even with their vast knowledge of this region, there was always an element of danger when traversing it. Its climate is often volatile, and conditions are known to turn on a dime, making safely navigating this area extremely difficult to downright impossible. This was apparent even on the day of filming, as a dense fog had rolled in, and given the steep and rocky landscape, one wrong step could spell disaster. This didn't stop the crew from carrying onward though, as Rod and Rachel were relentless in their pursuit. They would do anything to find these flowers, and sure enough, the segment ended as they did exactly that.
We've come about 4 times looking for this plant, and this is the best I've ever seen it. It is looking absolutely gorgeous.
With that, Rod and Rachel's time on Gardener's World was over, but their journey through this area certainly wasn't. As the cameras cut, the crew made their way back to their makeshift base camp miles away, where they said their goodbyes, with Nick Bailey capturing a photo with a beloved couple and sharing it onto Twitter before parting ways, leaving the couple behind. As rather than returning to their home in Cape Town, this was actually just the start of what would be a multi-month expedition into this region, with the Nagoy Forest Reserve being their final destination. Along with being botanists, the couple were also avid seed collectors, and had started a business which shipped the seeds they had found to other plant lovers around the world. And while here, they made it their mission to find some of these ultra-rare gladioli seeds. And sure enough, on February 8th, 2020, Rod and Rachel sent a text to one of their employees at the seed mailing business, which contained a photo of the exact flower they were looking for. But despite this text seeming like a sign of more good things to come, the reality was far more bleak.
How does this turn bad?
Would ultimately be the last the couple would ever send. Out of nowhere, communication with Rod and Rachel had stopped entirely, and for days no one heard anything from the duo, prompting that same employee they had sent the image to report them as missing on the 10th of February. It was a devastating turn of events, but one that was always a possibility. Poor weather, a wrong turn, an injury, anything could have derailed their expedition, as again, this area was notoriously dangerous, with it seeming all but certain that they had fallen victim to the unpredictable fury of Mother Nature, though this belief would quickly shift, thanks to the discovery of the couple's car. It was found by authorities abandoned by the edge of
into flowers was a dangerous
and had
job.
been emptied of virtually everything inside. However, there was something left behind. As in the trunk, authorities would find a massive pool of blood.
What
blood
the hell?
That belonged to Rachel. Just days after filming, Rod and Rachel were making their way towards the Nagoy Forest Reserve, growing more and more excited by the discoveries they were making, oblivious to the fact that in the woods around them, they were being watched,
What the
hunted
fuck?
even, and not by an animal, but rather by a man. His name was Saifundin Aslam Delvicio, a local of the area that the couple was traversing.
Fucking terrifying.
And on February 9th, he allegedly sent a text to his wife, Bibi Patel, telling her that he had found a good target, and that he was now in pursuit, with said target being Rod and Rachel.
The fuck did they do?
Later that night, the couple made their camp and began to drift off in their tent, while Delvicio allegedly watched on, and once he was certain that they had fallen asleep, he made his move, approaching the tent, then tearing it open, and then standing above the couple. In the following moments,
I'm
Rod and
carrying
Rachel would be
weapons on me at
brutally
all
bludgeoned
times,
to
guys. I will be
death
armed
before
at
they
all
can even
times now.
react, as they lay helplessly, still inside their sleeping bags.
You better believe it.
Text messages indicate that Delvicio then enlisted the help of his wife, Bibi,
On humans,
as well as his
especially,
friend,
like,
Musa Jackson, to help
two
discard the
chillin',
bodies,
like,
using the couple's
humans
own
doing
car to
absolutely
transport them
nothing,
to
you
the
know?
one place they were certain they would never be found. The Tagula River, as there was something about this stretch of water that they believed would make
There's
these
got to be a
bodies
list
impossible to
for
find.
people that want to hunt humans to be able to sign up and hunt each other, to give each other a challenge, you know? Be like, okay, you're on the list, this guy's on the list, you guys have to hunt each other. Whoever gets the, you know, there first wins. Like, give it a challenge. Like, if you're just doing two old people that like flowers, that's fucked.
Crocodiles. And so they pulled up to the banks of the river as the crocodiles quietly watched on from a distance and dumped the bodies of Rod and Rachel into the water, where they were immediately devoured.
Put them in a Hunger Games? Yes!
They thought it was the perfect
We'll make
plan.
a fucking
However,
movie
it
out of it or a
thankfully
show.
failed to work as well as they had hoped, as in the following weeks, fishermen would happen upon both of the corpses, or at least what remained of them, as they were in such bad shape that it would take nearly 2 full months for them to be identified.
Jesus.
As for why this attack happened, we still don't fully know, as the trial is still ongoing, with Delvicio proclaiming his innocence, which is why everything is alleged at the moment, but the evidence is damning. Messages on Delvicio's phone paint a clear picture that he was responsible for this, with his motive appearing to be religious differences between him and the Saunders, as well as money, as after the slayings, large sums of money were withdrawn from the couple's bank accounts, along with lavish purchases being made on their credit cards.
Oh my god.
With one of the receipts from
I'm
the shopping
telling you,
spree
every time someone fucking murders someone, they always go and use their credit cards. Why? If you're trying to plead not guilty and get away with it, don't spend their money or their
found inside of
cards.
Bibi's purse. The evidence is almost impossible to deny, but while we wait for justice to be served, it's important to refocus on those who won't be here to see it happen.
Oh man, R.I.P.
Rod and Rachel truly did nothing wrong. They were two incredibly wholesome people who were just trying to find and connect with the flower that they loved so dearly. And while their interview days before their
World
death
is
is
scary.
an
People are
undeniably
fucking
dark
scary.
television moment, it also serves as an incredible tribute, as one of the last things they ever did in their lives was share their love and passion for gladioli with the world, the flower that they ultimately gave their lives to find.
Quite a trek to get here, and what an incredible treat to see such a special plant in such a niche environment. Thank you.
Pleasure.
It's a pleasure.
Oh man, they were so fucking cool. Damn. Fucking, dude, fuck those people. Why they gotta kill innocent, nice flower people?